All right, hello everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I am lucky enough to be kicking off this session, and I urge you to stick around the whole day and absorb information. It's going to be a busy fall with the election and all, so can't learn too much at any time. But just to make sure that I'm coming through to everybody, please type a 1 for 11 a.m. and that way I know that this is the confirmation that you can hear me, and I appreciate it. Okay, Peter, Andrew, Jeff, Rick, Will, David, Nicholas, Rick. Awesome. All right, looks like I've got everyone able to hear me, and I've got a nice condensed 45 minutes to teach you something that you hopefully will get a lot of use out of, and I have over many, many years, as my little bio intro there shared. But you know, I always like to kind of tell my own story, not just rely on the resume read. So we're going to start with that, but trust me, in these 45 minutes you are going to walk away with a tool that you can use. So with that, you're in the right place at the right time. If you see my screen and it says how I trade momentum, RSI power zone setups on today's markets. Today's September 18th, and let's get started. Of course, before we get into the fun stuff, I must remind you that trading and investing can be extremely risky business, and it's therefore your responsibility to evaluate any information, opinion, advice, or other content contained in this presentation. What does that mean in like regular English? Well, like we mentioned, volatile times come with a lot of risk, and my company name is Seller Wealth. So my website is himareddy.com. My company name is Seller Wealth. And while I can give you as much as possible from my experience, I cannot guarantee any results on your end, okay? Or neither can anyone who works with or for me. So please type a D for disclosure if you understand that everything you learn here, you're gonna go trade at your own risk. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, doesn't mean that you should be scared, just means you need to practice, do some paper, simulated trading, etc., before you go with live funds. All right, love it. See a swarm of Ds on my screen. So like I said, this is me, Hima Reddy. I've been studying trading, analyzing markets for over 16 years. And I first learned about all this when I was a teenager from my dad. So he had a separate career, but he was very, very involved in the markets, especially equity index futures when they first started coming out in the late 90s. So I came to realize that you could actually use math and probability to make money in the markets for a living, and thought that was the coolest thing ever. So on my dad's advice, I went off to college, as you guys heard, studied Indiana University, go Hoosiers, leaving my home state of New York. And I did everything by the book, you know, I studied, I graduated on time, but when it came to actually learning about the markets, trading, investing, candlesticks, volume, I saw next to nothing. It's different now, but back then it wasn't like that. So I came to my dad and said, where do I learn all this technical analysis stuff you told me about? And he said, well, I guess you can move home, work part-time, and I will teach you. So that was our arrangement, self-made graduate school. And here was my first textbook. It was called How to Make Profits Trading in Commodities by W.D. Gann. Now, if you've heard of Gann, who's pictured here, please type a G for me, G for Gann. He's not too well known, but his name has come up more and more as people have looked back and seen that the concepts he taught have stood the test of time. And that's why my father started me on this track. Cool, all right. And the other thing my dad did was set me up with the software, TradeStation. And he said, look, Hima, you need to plot this one chart. Don't worry about anything else. And this is the E-mini S&P 500 futures on a 1-minute bar chart. Notice, no indicators, no moving averages, not even momentum, which I'm about to teach you, but simple price action. And the assignment was, watch this for 3 hours a day, every day, for 6 weeks. That's a lot of minutes of a recent college grad having to stare at a chart, right? And the attention span can be a little wonky, but I followed this advice, read the book, watched the charts, read the book, and the more I did those back and forth, the faster I was able to perceive opportunities to buy and sell for profit in the markets. And I took things to another level and started to take what I was reading in words in Gann's book and create graphic images so that I was aiding my learning. After several months, I quickly got the knack for this particular ES market. And I realized that if I actually come in prepared, then I might actually perform even better. So I started writing these little reports that I called the skinny on the mini. You can see here, this is one from 2005. This was an email screenshot of me reminding my dad that I wrote the skinny and he didn't read it yet. So this was all of my idea, but based on the teachings he provided me. The cool thing was that as my dad started to use the skinny and the mini, he started to make better trades in the ES because he incorporated support and resistance, he incorporated my timing points, and he incorporated the method of momentum analysis, which you're about to learn. So I took this experience and realized that while trading can provide a really awesome independent career, I had a knack for analysis and I wanted to go test this out professionally. So I found the CMT Association and I studied for the Chartered Market Technician exam. If you've heard of the CMT, please type a C for me. All right, this is more of a Wall Street professional analysis thing, but the education that I had to go through to get this designation was very robust, and I learned a lot from it, including the underlying base concept for the way I use momentum. So after completing the exams, getting my designation, I started work on Wall Street, and people heard this unique story of my experience with Gann's work, right? Taking this complex material and breaking it down. So eventually I got the opportunity to publish my own book. And my book, The Trading Methodologies of W.D. Gann, came out in October 2012. And the first edition has now run out of print. And I have now signed with Wiley to publish the second edition, which is pictured up in the right corner, coming out sometime in 2019. Okay, publishers don't move as quickly as traders do. So there's a lot of processes in there, but the book will come out again. Now, with my first book, suddenly my audience grew, right? First, it was just me and my dad looking at the skinny and the mini, and my colleagues maybe, but really, I started to now get a ton of book readers come my way, wanting to see examples of Gann's concepts at work, webinar and lecture attendees, just like you guys, and again, my MTA, or at that time it's called the MTA, my CMT Association colleagues. So I continued to share the skinny on the mini. I met a nice boy from Wisconsin. We moved out to Minnesota for his job after he got married. And you can see that these are neighboring states. My husband is total born and bred Midwest, and he is very proud of what you see here, converting me into a t-shirt wearing and a bratwurst eating Green Bay Packers football fan. And yes, I see the comment here about how Sunday was embarrassing. I did not watch the game. I was out with family, but I heard it ended in a tie with the Vikings. That's just, yeah, no good. But I digress. So Midwest roots, both of us had great jobs in Minnesota. Mine was at an equity research department of an investment bank. So an investment bank job does not allow you to do anything independently, right? So I had to go back to all the people who'd been getting this skinny on the mini and say, hey guys, I got to shut this operation down, at least for a while. And they started to tell me how sad they'd be to see it go. This blew my mind because people were just calmly soaking it in for years and then now telling me how great it was. Even though it was free, it was very valuable to them. So life moved on, and again, through another job change, my husband and I relocated back to my home state, and this was in Buffalo, New York. Now, since then, we have actually moved again. This is just over the past couple weeks, and now we are in St. Louis, Missouri. So if I've got anyone in St. Louis, please holler. I'm always open to recommendations and learning about new places. But the key was that, and I left Minnesota and went to New York. I had to leave my sell-side job naturally, and I thought to look for another corporate position. But in that transition, very sadly, my dad passed away. He had a heart attack in his sleep. It just was overnight. I mean, my whole life changed in an instant. And not only did I have the emotional challenge, but I had to now help take care of my mom and 3 siblings who were all younger than me in terms of legal matters and finances. And my whole life's priorities shifted. So I decided this is it. This is the time where I need to let go of corporate chains, if you will, make my own business, make my own life in trading, and if people still want to learn from me, in teaching. So I went back to all those folks who'd been getting the skinny and the mini for years, and I said, guys, here's my new life. Here I am in a new situation, and I want to do this for you, but let's make it a monthly subscription. And they started happily paying me for it. I mean, just think about that for a second. People started paying for something they used to get for free. This is the value it provided them. But they asked for more. They said, Hima, we don't want just the skinny and the mini. We don't want just your notes and research. We want to learn how you're doing this. And that's when I was able to start creating educational courses to show the methods at work. So if you're still with me, you know about the skinny, you know my story, please type in S and we will keep it moving here. And I'll teach you about the unique way I use momentum. All right, I need to see a swarm of S's on the screen, whether you've heard my story or not. I love it. Okay. Thank you. So here's the deal with momentum, guys. Momentum is derived from price. It's like a powerful force that's part of how price moves, if you've never heard about it. And it's plotted generally as a subchart, okay? So just to make things simple, this is, let's say, a line chart. You can use it for bars, you can use it for candles. And what you see here is how momentum and price generally move together. You have an uptrend in prices, so higher highs and higher lows. Then you generally have rising momentum. They move together. The thing is that momentum generally turns and peaks before price does. That can be super helpful. When prices are in a downtrend or falling, momentum is generally falling. And again, momentum tends to turn before price does, even on the downside. So you get a momentum trough, which is just a fancy word for a low, and that can lead a price trough. So what does this mean? It means that momentum, unlike, let's say, a moving average, which is lagging, momentum is a leading indicator. It is a heads-up indicator. It generally tells you what price is likely to do before price actually does it, all right? Now, as you heard, I am now a football fan, although I've not been so devoted this season, missed the first 2 games due to travel and moving and everything. But here is your traditional American football field. Now I need to know, is there anyone in the audience who doesn't know the super basic rules of football? Just type in N for me. N as in no football. All right. So basically all you need to know is that there's a ball that starts in the center of the field. And you got 2 teams on either side of this 100-yard green space, right? With these end zones on the end. Here we've got the best image I could find of the Green Bay Packers that would not make the NFL upset. I like it because it looks a lot like Aaron Rodgers, their quarterback. Now, those of you in the room obviously know a lot of football because I don't see a lot of ends on here. Who is the Packers' greatest rival in history? Not just last weekend, but in history, who is the Packers' greatest football team rival, would you say? There's a few key choices. Yes, I would say as well, Chicago, the Bears, okay, as they say, the Chicago Bears. And these 2 teams or any other have the same objective, but in different directions. This is going to tie into momentum shortly. What I want you to understand here is that for the Packers, for the guys with the ball here to actually make anything happen, they have to get to the other side of the field. Nothing happens in the middle. So the Packers have to move through the Bears defense and get to their end zone to score points. When the Bears have the ball, they have to do the same thing. They have to get through the Packers defense to score points. So the magic happens in the end zone, whether you're running the ball in and scoring a touchdown or throwing it in for a touchdown, or just kicking the ball through these little gold lines you see here, which represent the goalposts. How does this tie into momentum and how you're probably using a very popular indicator not to its full potential? Well, the way we do this is we flip this football field on its head. All right, so we've gone vertical now, same field. We're gonna take the 0 to 100 though, which only measures the green space, and stretch it out, include the end zones, and then plop it down as a subchart. So now you see I got these 2 lines I added in that mark the football field, and you can see what indicator this is, the relative strength index. If you've heard of the RSI, please type in R for me. Heard of it, used it, seen it on your charting software. I should see lots of R's here because, again, this is a very common thing. The RSI itself is not proprietary, okay? Mr. Wells Wilder, he released this in 1978. And when he did, what a bunch of technicians did is started immediately working on it to try to make it have more power and more range and optimize it, etc. But the one thing that we are not changing from the original, okay, this is super important, is we are not changing the standard 14 period setting. This stays the same. 14 period setting means that depending on the time frame of your chart. So here I'm going to give you a moment to understand how my charts work with the highlighter here. I've always got what the entity is here. So E-mini S&P 500 futures. Remember, that's the market I learned off of and that I write the skinny and the mini for. Continuous contract chart means it's rolling to each front month. Daily. Okay, so each one of these candles represents a day session. That means when you look at the latest RSI value, the calculation, which is complex, is looking at the past 14 days. Okay, so the current is reflective of the past 14 days. And as you go to the next day, the oldest of the 14 days drops off. So this is so important that I need you to type in the number 14 if you understand that we're not changing the 14 setting. I cannot tell you how many people come to me and say, hey, so I tweaked the RSI to 5 or 8 or whatever, and your unique method doesn't work. Well, yeah, because it's meant for 14. Great. Okay. So in order to know how to use it better, let's just take the basic understanding first and make sure we all are on the same page. The basic initial approach to RSI is that when it gets above 70, so above this line right here, you register overbought readings, and that's where sell signals live. So on the TradeStation platform, the default RSI just turns red automatically as it gets above 70. It's not an automatic sell signal, but can you guys see how this can really mess with your head and make you want to sell short even when it's not time to? Look at this strong ES uptrend we had on the daily chart, and all these times we got overbought, and except for the last one, none of them really provided useful shorting opportunities, right? Similar issue on the flip side. Here we've got below 30 equals oversold. So when you see a drop below 30 on the RSI, it turns blue on TradeStation. And this is where buy signals live, okay? Not an automatic buy signal. But notice here, fine, this was fantastic buy signal, right? I think anybody would be happy with this. But what about all the other opportunities to enter long in this market along the way? None of them would have been shown to us by following the simple below 30 approach. So what do? Well, we very politely say when it comes to using only standard overbought, oversold, we're going to call BS. And now this is what you're going to use going forward, okay? So if you don't have pen and paper or screenshot software or anything ready, this is the time to have it. Remember the bears. The bears have to get to their end zone to make anything happen, right? To score points to win the game. The market bears operate in the same fashion. When we look at the RSI as a football field, the bears are living in a certain part of the field, and it's the lower part. So in a bear market, or a market that is trending lower initially, that is correcting lower, you generally see resistance in the RSI form from 55 to 65, not up at 70. This makes sense when you think about it, because if a market is weak, it should get overbought at a lower threshold, right, than a ranging sideways market. So this is the first set of numbers you want to jot down. RSI bear resistance power zone 55 to 65. Along with that, you've got the bear support power zone from 20 to 30. Here, you can see that it includes the traditional 30 level. But by pushing the entire cushion of support out to 20, it will prevent you from bottom picking too soon. And allows you to see that pressure fall out towards 20. Now, remember, the RSI is from 0 to 100. So I'm not at all saying that the RSI only trades in the power zones. What I'm saying is that these are the zones to watch when you're in a downtrend or weak conditions, right? So if you've got this screen right here, you've got the important numbers written down, you understand, please type a C. C for Chicago Bears, because I can't do B for Bears, B for Bulls, right? So C for Chicago Bears, if you've got this screen, you understand we're now forgetting about 70 and 30, and we're going to use different zones depending on market conditions. And I'm going to have examples for you immediately here. Great. So the market bulls, just like how the bears live in the lower part of the RSI, the bulls live in the upper part. So the bull resistance power zone is well beyond 70. It's from 80 to 90. Notice how here, if you looked at the bull resistance power zone instead of traditional, you would have many fewer instances of being overbought in this up market and much less likely to have been stopped out of an attempted short signal, right? And here's where it really provides value when you're trading with the trend. So the example of chart I have here is obviously an uptrend chart with, you know, this massive sideways period in the middle. But now look at all the times that the RSI got to the bull support power zone of 40 to 50. Let's go back to the beginning. We got it here. Well, that was a low. We got here, traded a little bit below it, but that was a low. We got it here. So anybody would have been happy getting long at that low? I think so. And then even recently, now look at the breakout that started. Where did it start? With RSI basing from 40 to 50, touched it again on this low. If you can see the value of looking at the full range of RSI besides 30 to 70, please type a V for me right now, V for value. Okay, you're taking an existing tool and you're amplifying it without changing a whole lot. Awesome. Now, take these numbers in. We're going to now look at examples. Don't worry about memorizing the numbers. You will see them on every one of my examples, all right? I just want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with this concept. So if you've got the bull support and bull resistance power zones, you kind of understand where I'm coming from here. Please type a B for bulls, and then we're going to dive right into examples. All right. Excuse me. So what we're going to do is, as I mentioned in my story, right? I do the skinny and the mini, and then here are some of the courses that I have to date. We're going to take a slice out of the RSI Power Zones workshop, which is a course I have, and I'll let you know more in a little bit about how you can take advantage of that course. But we're going to actually take a piece out of it. Okay, most people don't do this. They teach you a very general concept, and then you're kind of trying to figure it out on your own. I'm going to give you the exact thing to look for. So I saw a question about, does this only work for futures, which you might think because of my experience. Absolutely not. As you can read here, RSI power zones can be used for analysis and signals on any active market in any time frame. The only thing I would warn is that if you trade off a tick chart, don't look for the signal that I'm going to teach you shortly on the tick chart. It will be a lot more erratic. Use at least a 5-minute chart, for example, to find the signal. So if you look at this group here of asset classes on the left and time frames on the right, if I've got you covered on something, if you see a market you trade, if you see a time frame you trade, please type M for me, that I'm talking to you. And you can see that these are just a few examples, but I'm going to dig in and we're going to look at a stock first on a daily chart. That's just like a good middle ground place to start. Now, I specifically picked this stock, which is a little bit obscure, because it was requested for analysis by one of my past RSI Power Zones workshop students. And you will see what I mean in a moment, all right? So here's the ticker, APH. It's so obscure that I don't even memorize the name of the company here. It's Amphenol Corp, okay? That's not important right now. What I want you to do is get used to how the power zones action unfolds. So for starters, take a look now at this side of the screen. All this white blank space is me covering it up to teach you, all right? So on the left here, we've got the RSI power zones, and now I have red and green lines delineating the actual zones, all right? You're gonna see the zone numbers unfold as we move to the right. You can see here, there was a hold in the bull support power zone, market turned higher. Rallied to the bear resistance power zone, and then capped briefly. But the key here is that something kind of interesting started to happen with price and momentum. We have a higher high in price, and I'm comparing to the previous swing high. So compared to back here, we have higher high in price, but compared to the RSI, we have a lower high. What gives, right? I just taught you that these are supposed to move together. Well, here's the first signal that you can look for. In a situation where you're in an uptrend in price and you get a higher high in price, but a lower high in the RSI, this is called a bearish divergence. This is not unique to the RSI Power Zones application. You can trade divergences on the regular RSI. But when you apply analysis of the divergence and compare it to what zone you see it happening in, then you actually have strategies that can fit in around that. So here's what I mean. Bearish divergence, right? Higher high in price, lower high in the RSI, happening in the bear resistance power zone, right? That's what we're falling out of right here. This is when you watch for a sell entry setup on price. Let's say you did. What was the move that unfolded for which you could have taken advantage of some part of it? Well, there was a high that formed at 93.52 on February 1st, and then a low on February 9th at $82.15. This was a move of $11.37 in 6 trading sessions. When you look at percentage-wise, based on the price of the stock, this is more than a 10% move. So the person who asked about this ticker was a student of one of my August offerings of the workshop. And it was, or my July offering, we're just going to see here in a second. But it was in their bonus session that we have together, like a live hour together where we review all this, that they asked about it again. I'm trying to make the point that I don't have to hand pick and cull beautiful looking markets to show examples. I can pick anything that any of my students trade and show you how this method works. Let's just kind of get more again of the flow here. Traded, again, capping the bear resistance power zone, okay? Had another massive fall. Another massive rally. Rally from the bull support power zone. Now, here is the session. It was August 6th, all right? So it was a July offering of the workshop, like today is a September offering. And then on August 6th, this person in their bonus session said, well, Hima, what do you see about APH? This is what I said verbatim. It is in their logged portal. You know, I can provide proof that I said this. I'm not making it up now. Based on this chart at this time, I said, long positions would be advised, no new signal. Okay, I'm trying to make the point that you don't have divergences happening left and right. But here, I said, RSI power zones are saying stay up. Why? Basing here in the bull support power zone, doing it again with the next higher low, having exceeded the bear resistance power zone, and we're on an uptrend. And then here's what followed. Would my advice to my student on August 6th, based simply on RSI power zones, have been useful? Type a yes if you understand yes. And again, this is a market that I'm not cherry picking it. They asked me about it. So this is just a different way. You know, some of you in here, I recognize your names. You've heard me speak before, but I'm trying to show you that this isn't just in my little bubble of ES or NQ. I do have futures examples for the next 2 time frames, for the next 2, but it's because I want to show you this on intraday. All right. And then we still should have time to go to live markets. Now let's look at equity index future on a 60-minute chart. Here is the ES. This is a little typo here. This is supposed to be ESU18. Okay, this is what happens when I try to make my charts up to date. But you can see here from the trade station ticker. So this was the September contract on September 4th. All right. So about 4 days before expiry, right? More than that? Oh, I'm confused. Last week is when the contract roller date happened. Never mind. This is about a week out from when we had moved to the December contract. Okay. Bring your attention. There's lots of stuff going on here. Okay. I use pink for support. I use blue for resistance. I have trend lines. I have lots of stuff. But look at what's consistently down here. RSI power zones on a 14 period setting. Even though we're on a 60-minute chart, we do not change the 14 period. Take a look at these 2 lines here. They're representing the movement of price, making a lower low, right? But down here, price was making a lower low and RSI was making higher lows. What gives? Again, this is an opportunity to take advantage of the disconnect between price and momentum. Here's what it looks like. Lower low in price, higher low in the RSI after a downtrend, that's important, is an RSI bullish divergence. And just like with the bearish divergence, where the divergence happens relative to the power zone is where you get more use out of it than just the traditional RSI approach. Here we have a bullish divergence in the bull support power zone. Watch for a buy entry set up on price. And then obviously, like I said, in the workshop that this is sliced out from, I have all the specifics of that. But let's just look at what general price action occurred here. This green arrow represents the up move that unfolded after the bullish divergence, right? After the 3rd low. So this is a triple bullish divergence on that last low. There was a low at 1 p.m. So that, not on September 4th, on a prior day here. of 28.91.75, a high at 8 a.m. the following day at 2912.5. So that's a $1,037.50 move in 18 hours. Why am I talking about 18 hours and not just New York trading sessions? Because the ES, the other mini index futures, are very, very active markets, and there's lots of overnight participation in them. So you don't have to day trade them. You can trade them outright directly if you're willing to hold that position into the night. You can use option strategies to take advantage of what the ES is doing. I have a lot of subscribers who don't even trade ES futures contracts, but they trade options and they want to take my analysis of what the ES might do. So here's another example, but this is just the bullish version of the signal. All right. So if that walkthrough helped you understand how to use the power zones, what kind of signals you can apply, please type an E for ES and we'll go on to another example. Wonderful. Now let's do another intraday time frame. Why? Because I take feedback from my students, and the RSI Power Zones Workshop course and what I'm showing you here has been formally presented for a little over a year now. And I used to do more bigger time frames, weeklies, dailies, because I'm a Gann person and that's kind of where I lean. But a lot of the day traders came back and said, Hima, we want to see short-term examples. So here's a 5-minute chart of another popular equity index future. This is the NQ. For the NQ, I actually provide analysis on Mondays and Wednesdays, skinny on the mini style. But I use a 120-minute chart because it has a little bit more volatility and the point values are smaller. So here's a 5-minute chart, and this was last Friday. Okay, I was still unpacking boxes on Friday. So I captured this yesterday, had no idea what signals I would find, but I want to show you power zones would have been useful. Here is the RSI power zones, same exact way. Here's overnight price action. And what I mean is that it's before the New York Open, right? So 3, 4 o'clock Eastern in the morning. Notice here, we have a higher high in price in an uptrend, but a lower RSI reading. This is a bearish divergence, and it's in the bear resistance power zone. It's the location of the second high on a bear divergence or the second low on a bull divergence that defines what zone you're in. Okay. Watch for a sell entry setup in price. Well, that was early in the morning, right? So not super useful unless you're trading in Europe or maybe trading out in Australia or something. What about what came towards the morning when you might actually have woken up, 7 a.m., 8 a.m.? We had a cap at bear resistance. So all this consolidation is unfolding, but we're still getting lower highs, lower lows. You might be like, well, Hima, we're holding bear resistance there, but we're holding bull support here. Yeah, but look at the trend. The trend of these highs has been down. We want to trade with the trend. Okay, all those cliches, the trend is your friend, etc. I'm a big trend trader fan. Now, if you decide to scalp, trade against the trend, you can, but keep the bigger trend in mind and be quick. Don't, do my dad's advice was, don't be too cute, Hima. If you're going to scalp, take what the market gives you and run, and then trade back with the trend. Don't be too cute. Don't try to get too much out of there. Cap at bear resistance started falling. Now we have the market open, 9:30. We fell hard, held at the bear support power zone. Rallied, lots of chop, lots of volatility here, but around 10:30, 10:45 a.m., cap at the bear resistance power zone. There's other stuff going on here. I see right away from Gann analysis that would suggest that maybe we're going to be topping out, maybe start to consider selling. And here's the move that followed. This was not a bearish divergence. This was simply the RSI repeatedly holding resistance in the bear resistance power zone as it made lower highs in price. See? Lower high, lower high, lower high. And here's what that move looks like in case you're not familiar with the NQ and how it prices out. There was a high at exactly 10:40 a.m., the 5-minute bar, 10:40 a.m., 7614. Low at 1:15 Eastern at 7544.25. $1,395 move in 2.5 hours on one contract. Okay, this is why I love equity index futures. Now, you might be recognizing something happening at the bottom. What's this? I'm going to let you guys guess now. We've got a lower low in price in a downtrend, but a higher low in the RSI. You just learned this signal within the past 20 minutes. Any guesses as to what it is? That's right. Bullish divergence. And the location is the bear support power zone. Okay? Bullish divergence, so the indication of the signal is bullish, but it's happening in a bear zone. This is different. Notice we have green and red, not green and green or red and red. So it's a different setup, a different strategy approach, but here's the move that followed. Just within the regular session. Remember, we had a low at 115 at 7544.25. High at 3:55 p.m., just ahead of the close at 7586.50. That is an $845 move in 2.5 hours. Again, not too shabby. And this was just last Friday. My presentation here was scheduled well before last Friday. I couldn't have had this ready for you. So I hope you understand and see the value in this. And now you might be wondering, all right, so Hima, do I just basically buy and sell back and forth between the zones and look for divergences? Is that your secret sauce? No, because you might get caught up in something like what you see here. Higher highs and lower lows and readings on the RSI that are not necessarily matching up beautifully for signals. That's why you've got to layer a bit more into it. So this is what I offer in the RSI Power Zones workshop. So before I tell you about the details of the workshop, you guys let me know. Do you want to know exactly what's in here and how this can help you? Type a W for workshop. I need to make sure you're still here. I've still got your attention. My internet didn't cut out. Okay, W for workshop, and I'll explain what all comes with this. Super. So first thing you get, instant access. It's a very digital world we're in. People want stuff right away. So I'll give you a video tutorial immediately that covers a variety of topics, including my favorite RSI pattern setups. I'm going to show you the result of one setup later in these slides. It's going to blow your mind, but there are ways you can use price and momentum to create price targets. The best candlestick patterns for trading RSI Power Zone signals. As the formal introduction of me unfolded, you may have heard I used to write questions for the CMT exams. I graded candlesticks. I wrote candlesticks. I was very into candlesticks. And I've narrowed down to a handful that work the best with this way of using momentum. Bar chart reversal patterns. This is different. I don't always look at a candle chart. Sometimes it's more helpful to look at a bar chart and more. Okay, this is about a 2 hours worth of content. That's it. It just dives right in. Okay, no intro, no nothing. Just content that you can watch and rewatch as you need to. Instant access number 2 is cheat sheets. You guys remember back in grade school, well, not grade school, maybe high school, middle school, sometimes you had really elaborate science tests and they said, these kids are young, we won't make them memorize the formula. And you got a cheat sheet. You had a fixed size of paper, you could bring it in. Okay, this at least is the US approach. I don't think this happened in India where my family's from or anywhere else, but I provide you cheat sheets as a trader. What does that mean? It's a PDF, you can print it out or put it on your desktop and it will have, for example, this is just one of them. What kind of divergence versus what kind of zone? What do I do? What did Hima teach me? Well, here was one example, right? This is the first example we saw. Well, you'll get the rest of this cheat sheet plus a bunch of others all filled out ready as a handy guide right by your desk. I keep all of mine right here. Even though I created this stuff, I still can use a refresher or if I see conflicting signals, this helps me out. The actual indicator, RSI power zones. You can go and draw red and green lines 8 times on every chart. Trust me, it gets old fast. If you'd like the zones plotted on your chart, here's the software that I have it for. Every one of these is available. And let me be very clear, this is not like you buy it and you have to get it for TradeStation or MetaTrader or Ninja. No, you can download as many of these as you like, as many times as you like. There's setup instructions for each one of them. And I'm going to move through this slide, but when you go to the sign up page, which I'll let you know in a moment, you will see all of these listed there, okay? So you don't need to see this screen and memorize all these. This latest one, TradingView, is new. I think that just came up last week, okay? Now, there's one piece of this that's not instant access. It's the live bonus session, right? Because I said to you, I want to give you all this education, but I want to convene back with you. So what we're gonna do is on Tuesday, October 9th, it's already planned out. You're already going to be able to access and everything when you sign up. At 12 p.m. noon Eastern, we're going to have a live session. You'll have an opportunity to submit questions in advance so that I can give you the best answer possible. You will also be able to submit your tickers in advance, like the person who submitted APH, for example. Your session will be recorded and placed in your course portal for lifetime access. So if you already know that for some reason you can't make it live or it doesn't work for your time zone, don't worry, you will get access to it. And you can still submit your questions and they still may be addressed, right? It's an hour long, so it just depends on how many questions and tickers come in. Now, here's a couple bits of feedback from my students, okay? You've heard everything just from me so far. So Rob in Canada said, in just a few months, Hima's RSI indicator has become the standard in all of my charts. He uses a variety of packages. Dave in Washington, set up the RSI Power Zones indicator, and it's just amazing how accurate it is on all markets. Actually gives advance warning before the price moves. Susie in Colorado, my first month using RSI Power Zones was also my best month trading so far. I mean, that kind of speaks for itself. So what is it that we've got for you today? I'm moving through this at a good clip, A, because I grew up in New York, B, because I only have 45 minutes, and C, because I'm the first speaker, okay? If I mess up the schedule, everyone's gonna be mad at me. So I know I'm speaking fast, Sean, but trust me, you'll be able to get everything you need answered. Also, my support team is at their desk. So if you have questions, you're confused, you can reach out to them. They're there till 5 p.m. today. Here's what you're gonna get. So the value, the retail value of the education, okay, the tutorial and the cheat sheets is $997. Live Q&A bonus session, retail value, $197. That's for personal time with me, coaching, right? RSI Power Zones indicator sells as a standalone for $297. All of this together would be a retail value of $1491. But you guys are here, you're committed, you're dedicated, and you can just sign up for a one-time, this is not a subscription, a one-time registration of $197, and you can sign up at himareddy.com/mama. Oh, awesome, Charles, thank you. Charles wrote, Hima has great support people who are very responsive. There's nothing better than hearing that from somebody besides myself. So this is the site, guys, himareddy.com/mama. Why mama? Because this presentation sometimes is called Not Your Mama's Momentum, all right? Now, $197, again, flat sign up gets you everything I described. The thing is, I want to reward the action takers, so the doors close today at 10 p.m. You basically have, 9 or 10 hours here to take action. And why you need the workshop and can't just do everything you want with what you learned today. You can start with that, but the workshop gives you the detailed strategies on how to best trade with the indicator. And it prevents reinventing the wheel, right? I had to do a lot of that, taking things and disassembling them and reassembling them to understand them. Save yourself time and money in the long haul. Yes, Dwight, to your question. He's asking a specific product question. This is recorded, Sean, but the team that's hosting this event is responsible setting up the recording. My offer is valid to 10 p.m. Now, after you sign up, I'm showing you what I wish somebody showed me when I would sit at like Traders Expos and other events and buy courses with my dad. Here's what you're gonna get when you sign up. If you get these 3 emails, you're hooked and you're good to go. Okay, one that gives you your access from support at himareddy.com, another that confirms your live coaching participation, and then one that is your receipt. So I wanted to show you real quick, daily stock chart. Here's ATVI. The last workshop offering, the most recent, was on August 21st, okay? So folks who came in on August 21st, like you're coming in on September 18th, signed up for the workshop, had their bonus session on September 4th. That's the second gray arrow. On September 4th, during the session together, okay, I rewatched this yesterday, that's how I know we did this. We calculated a target of 8609 using price and momentum. Like I said, that method is explained in the workshop. Here's where ATVI was as of Friday. Pretty helpful, huh? Helps you stay with the trend, keeps you in the direction, uses tools you probably didn't use before to calculate price targets, and it's not that complicated, but it can be tricky if you don't keep your information in order. So thank you again for your time. It's 11:44. I'm going to take 3 ticker requests and cover each of them in 20 seconds. So go, you can type them in now. I'll bring over my trade station. And I'm gonna keep this up here. Amazon, good one, Daniel. That's probably a popular one. So just super raw analysis here because time is tight, but it's still gonna be helpful for you. I type it in over here, AMZN. So on Amazon right now, look at this. We have been correcting, but the RSI is where? Back in the bull support power zone, holding the most recent higher low from August 17th. I see further upside ahead on Amazon as long as we remain above the August 17th low. And I would keep an eye on it as we trade back up to the bull resistance power zone. Look how we did that on June 20th and September 4th. Okay, crude oil. Crude oil. I have a different charts for different things here, but I'm going to pick a clean blank one. Crude oil's been in a little bit of a triangular consolidation here. All right, I'll do some rough lines right here. Like that, like that. And you can see that we're kind of just coiling around neutral. So no big picture move to call yet, but I would say that I expect further upside. Why? Because we've been holding at higher levels on the RSI. This latest one was the first that spent most of its time in the bull support power zone. So not guaranteeing this. I don't have a crystal ball. Expect an upside breakout. Okay, I said 3, so last one here, Netflix. And then we will close up shop and I can keep everyone moving along. Here we go, Netflix in the bear resistance power zone, but coiling near neutral. Again, it's a wait. I don't have an active signal for you. So that's my piece, guys. Here's my offer. And maybe you guys can just, yeah, sure. I can just drop the link in the room and then I'll make my way out.